Hello, I'm John Reisman, and this is Centrist News and Perspectives, where we focus on evidence, reason, and logic to achieve a better understanding. As new evidence and allegations rise into the light of day, and as we close in on Election Day in the United States, we are beginning to see a picture of corruption that may exceed the scope and depth of anything America has previously experienced. There are so many allegations, the best we can do is show you the key points and illustrate the relationships. Here's the story. Relying on weak and false evidence in a coordinated effort by rogue agents inside the FBI's New York field office in collusion with the Trump campaign, it now appears that for the first time in U.S. history, a coup has been attempted to take over the government of the United States of America during an election. There are indications that militant agents in the New York field office presented false and misleading information to Washington, D.C. FBI headquarters and the Department of Justice in an effort to manipulate the outcome of the election. There is no indication that FBI Director Comey is involved. The concerted efforts of agents from the New York FBI field office are implicated in working directly with Donald Trump's campaign to impugn Hillary Clinton with manufactured evidence, which has been the hallmark of the Trump campaign. The evidence seems to tie directly to hedge fund billionaire Robert Mercer and his ties to multiple organizations connected to the Trump campaign. On October 25th, I called the FBI headquarters in New York to give them a heads up on my findings regarding the Trump organization. When I gave them the information, the reaction I heard in the tone of the agent's voice, though subtle, made me suspicious that Trump might have friends inside the FBI field office in New York. As soon as I got off the phone, I called the Washington, D.C. FBI headquarters so there would be two records of the call. The reason I called in the first place is that while I was reviewing the 3,500 lawsuits Trump Organization has been involved in, I noticed distinct patterns that can be classified as racketeering and organized crime. I made the call to the FBI on October 25th. So I was a little surprised when only 5 days later, on October 30th, Jim Kallstrom, former head of the New York FBI office, said the Clinton family was a crime family. Suddenly I had to wonder, did someone in the FBI's New York office tip the Trump camp and inform Kallstrom? Normally, Trump is reactive in his attacks, and this was the first time he was ahead of the news, so I began to investigate the possibility of a leak from the FBI New York office. Here's what I found. Rudy Giuliani's former law firm, Bracewell Giuliani, had long been general counsel to the FBI Agents Association, thus having direct connections with a multitude of agents. Kallstrom founded the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation, reportedly the biggest beneficiary from Trump when he boycotted the Iowa primary debate. And Trump Foundation previously gave $230,000 to Kallstrom's foundation. Kallstrom also worked with Giuliani in the 1970s. Donald Trump has always been generous to the FBI, even allowing them to use his buildings for stakeouts. Donald Trump's campaign is also deep in the pockets of hedge fund manager Robert Mercer, who has been funding his own super PAC dedicated to supporting Trump and destroying Hillary Clinton. His employees at the super PAC included Kellyanne Conway, now Trump's campaign manager, and David Bosie, now Trump's campaign CEO. Billionaire Mercer also funds Breitbart.com, a fringe extremist website focused more on conspiracy and drama than evidence-based reporting. Peter Sweitzer and another individual, Steve Bannon, also had a right-wing effort called the Government Accountability Institute, also funded by billionaire Mercer. Peter Sweitzer authored the book called Clinton Cash, which seems to rely on assumptions and attempts to connect dots using innuendo and assertion to imply proof. Sweitzer already corrected 7 or 8 passages that were revealed to be inaccurate after the book was released. Billionaire Robert Mercer funded the making of a movie of the same title. The Wall Street Journal has reported that in a meeting held in February of 2016, the FBI's New York office field agents used conspiracy theories from the Breitbart book as a source for pushing an investigation on the Clinton Foundation to the Justice Department. The anti-corruption prosecutors examined the material and found the evidence too weak to make a case against the Clinton Foundation. Though investigation is ongoing regarding the Huma Abedin emails, which according to the FBI came from an unclassified folder, so finding anything new is unlikely. The Wall Street Journal's Devlin Barrett reported on October 30th that sources indicated the Department of Justice reviewed material apparently based on the publicly available sources pushed by New York office field agents. This indicates that the FBI agents may have been pushing evidence in relation to the Clinton Foundation based on conspiracy theories manufactured through Mercer's efforts with Breitbart and the Government Accountability Institute, funded by Mercer, which includes the senior management of the Trump campaign. It now looks like rogue FBI agents in the New York field office, Robert Mercer's Super PAC, Breitbart.com, and the Government Accountability Institute are all connected to the Trump campaign. Now let's circle back to Kallstrom's Clinton crime family claim. Here's the difference between Kallstrom's statement and my assertion that the Trump Organization may be a crime family. Based on the evidence available, Hillary Clinton has no convictions and no settlements. Her record is clean. It doesn't matter if people don't want to believe that, because evidence is about what we can prove, not what we think. Much of what Trump supporters think about Hillary is clearly based on false information and innuendo. Hillary Clinton has no convictions anywhere in her record. On the other hand, the Trump Organization has been found guilty and settled in multiple government violations, including gambling license issues, tax issues, workers and contractors being fleeced or scammed, the Trump University scam, and now Donald Trump is set to appear in court in December for the alleged rape of a 13-year-old girl when he was at a party with a since-convicted pedophile. Trump will say the charges are trumped up, of course, but that's what Trump always says, even when he is found guilty. Trump settled hundreds of cases, but he says he doesn't settle. He fights to the end. So the implication is Trump settles to prevent more guilty verdicts in his crime record. Now, to Kallstrom's assertion the Clinton family is a crime family, this is simply not feasible based on the current conviction level of 0. You need at least 2 acts of racketeering drawn from a list of 35 crimes in a 10-year period, with 1 of 4 types of relationships involved. Here are the parameters for a RICO case. The money has to be for something invested in the enterprise or racket, or there has to be acquisition of interest, control, or participation in the affairs of the enterprise through pattern racketeering, or conspiracy to do one of the above. To be considered a racket, the service offered may be solving a problem that does not exist, or will not be put in effect, or would not exist if the racket did not exist. Conducting a racket involves a potential problem which may be caused by the solution offered by the organization, with the intent to create patronage. Trump University seems to fit these criteria very well. Since the Clinton Foundation was actually solving problems by giving away 90% of all the proceeds to helping people around the world and not engendering patronage, it does not fit the racketeering profile. On the other hand, on October 3rd, 2016, just last month, the New York Attorney General's office said Donald Trump's charitable foundation has been ordered to suspend its fundraising immediately for violating state law. Now, does racketeering fit the Trump Organization? Trump has already admitted to buying politicians for political favors.
I got to give to them, because when I want something, I get it. When I call, they kiss my ass. Okay.
But that's just old school mafia, and Donald seems to relish his mafia boss attitude in how he talks and how he acts. If he doesn't like somebody, he just says rough him up, or he deserves to be roughed up. Donald is not a law and order candidate. Donald is a bully or a thug candidate.
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Trump and the Trump Organization has had guilty verdicts and settlements in countless cases due to bad deals where they seem to have systematically fleeced taxpayers, governments, contractors, banks, lenders, and shareholders, as well as misrepresenting statistics to give a false picture in this election. Interesting is the fact that Trump, according to the FEC filings, is paying himself and his family business a large portion of the money he is raising from his campaign donors. From records earlier this year, Trump paid his business and his kids over $2.7 million from campaign contributions, and $1.1 million just in May of 2016. The abnormal behavior of Trump has some calling his campaign a scampaign, as he fleeces his donors. It is also clear Trump's methods are systemic and used regularly in his business deals. In the case of Trump Organization, the RICO Act fits very well, especially when we consider Trump University, where thousands of students were asked to max out their credit cards and take a first or second mortgage on their home to pay for courses. Each course was designed to upsell students and fleece customers out of more money. This systemic method of marketing clearly fits into the category of creating patronage. You might even say he indentured the students. They had to put all their hopes into Trump University because now they were indebted and instructed to rely on Trump University to make their money back. Trump University had hired non-professional instructors, many of which were not successful in real estate, and some had criminal records in drug trafficking and child molestation, as well as bankruptcy. And the instructors were not handpicked by Donald Trump, as Trump had claimed in his ads. Students were asked to put every last penny they had into Trump University, pushing many towards bankruptcy. Well, bankruptcy is also the hallmark of the Trump method, as we all know. His bad deals have led to massive, large-scale bankruptcies and put many people out of business. Now, to be a RICO case, it needs to be a multi-state racket. And since Trump University was all across the country, it clearly fits within the predicates. Multiple violations in multiple states. The Trump Organization and Trump University are prime for a RICO investigation. So let's circle back again. Why did Kallstrom claim the Clintons were a crime family just 5 days after I called the FBI New York office about the Trump Organization potentially violating the RICO Act? There are clear indications Trump and the Trump camp are talking to working FBI agents about ongoing FBI investigations, which is against regulations, and in this case violating the Hatch Act, or worse. Rudy Giuliani stated the Trump camp will be delivering surprises just days prior to Director Comey's letter to Congress on Friday, October 28th.
Anything about the October surprise? Any hints? Slight hint?
No hints, but it'll be good.
And then I think he's got a surprise or two that you're going to hear about in the next 2 days.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking about some pretty big surprise.
Oh, yeah, I heard you say that this morning. What do you mean?
You'll see.
We're going to see. Stay tuned.
But he also said he thought it would have happened 4 weeks earlier, indicating these relationships are much older. And Kallstrom admitted in interviews he was speaking with active agents about ongoing investigations, even though he is retired. The question I have is, did Kallstrom know about my phone call on October 25th? If so, which agent took the call and who passed it on to Kallstrom? The fact that Trump has been doing favors for the FBI over decades and donating to their causes is also part of Trump's MO. Trump's election campaign is beginning to look like a coup attempt rather than an election, as more indications surface that connections he paid for are now being used to circumvent Republican democracy in an attempt to take over the government. And based on his statements and behavior, Trump leans toward dictatorship, saying he would limit free speech and put political opponents and reporters in jail, just like in Russia. With such assertions, I can say that Trump has little to no respect for the Constitution of the United States, as free speech is a founding principle of our great country. And if America is any less great, it is because of people like Donald Trump that take advantage of our laws just so they can take advantage of the American people to line their own pockets with ill-gotten gains.
I take advantage of the laws of the nation.
At this point, the evidence seems very strong that the Trump Organization is in violation of the RICO Act and has been actively planning a coup possibly decades in the making, based on his buying up FBI connections and using New York FBI agents to push information manufactured through Robert Mercer's efforts to the FBI in D.C. and the Justice Department. To wrap this up, Giuliani is a top Trump surrogate and worked with Kallstrom. Kallstrom's foundation received money from Trump Foundation. And both Kallstrom and Giuliani are apparently speaking with active FBI agents about ongoing investigations and using that information to influence the 2016 election. Now, on top of everything else, Director Comey needs to find out what is going on in the New York office to identify which agents are violating the Hatch Act. Director Comey is firmly lodged between a rock and a hard place, but I remain confident his integrity and commitment to America will help get us back on track. Meanwhile, Mercer, the Government Accountability Institute, Breitbart and a group of apparently militant FBI agents all seem to be implicated in a massive fraud based on a well-planned, coordinated attempt to pull off a coup and illegally take over the government of the United States of America. We see the potential areas of investigation throughout the history of the Trump Organization when we look at the predicate offenses for violation of the RICO Act. Bribery in Trump's favors for FBI agents and politicians, and buying politicians for business favors, such as getting Governor Christie to forgive $30 million of tax debt.
I got to give to them because when I want something, I get it. When I call, they kiss my ass. Okay.
Dealing in obscene matter for his ownership of beauty pageants, where he bragged about walking in on underage teens to see them naked in the dressing rooms.
I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant and therefore I'm inspecting it. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Extortion for bullying tactics with contractors. Tax evasion for systematically abusing the tax code and not including all forgiven debt as income. Violating the Hatch Act for soliciting information through his surrogates directly from active FBI agents. Embezzlement and bankruptcy fraud for taking extraordinary salary and bonuses on failing enterprises and making junk bond offerings on failing businesses. Gambling and money laundering violations, such as when his father bought $3.5 million in chips at a Trump casino with no intent to gamble, which New Jersey regulators deemed illegal. And in February 2015, the U.S. Department of Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network settled an investigation of Trump Taj Mahal with an assessment of a $10 million civil fine for significant and long-standing money laundering violations, which were described as willful and repeated. And finally, racketeering and fraud, which is profoundly evident in the Trump University case and the Trump Organization's repeated and systemic methods of misrepresentation of fact in business transactions while breaking contracts on a regular basis. In the end, the evidence seems amazingly strong that Trump Organization is in violation of the RICO Act and that the Trump camp has a cozy connection with active FBI agents in New York. If the Trump Organization is found guilty of a RICO violation, then everyone, his family, his employees, his associates, his subcontractors, his campaign managers, his surrogates, and any and all FBI agents connected with releasing information to the Trump campaign, staff and surrogates, and every act of fraud, extortion, racketeering, and misrepresentation in a coordinated effort will become part of the investigation. Hundreds or even thousands of people might be investigated. If this investigation is taken to its logical end, this could easily prove to be the largest RICO case in the history of the United States. The case is so obvious, though, we have to ask the question, did the agents in the FBI field office in New York ignore the massive amount of evidence for a RICO case? Because Donald Trump has been cultivating his relationships and doing favors for them for decades. And did that result in obstruction of justice? Agents looking the other way or ignoring evidence? The challenges are many on the road ahead. From this point, we need to know how this happened and how to prevent it from happening again in the future. I'm John Reisman, and this is Centrist News and Perspectives.